What's good, YouTube? It's your boy EGF Hoops here with another amazing YouTube video. As you saw by the title today, we're about to go over why the Boston Celtics have been so underachieving this season. They've been fairly underwhelming. But before we even get into that, don't forget to hit that sub button. Comment down below what else you want to see from this channel and how you feel about the Boston Celtics struggles this year. Hit that bell for post notifications because we're posting every 2 to 3 days. And again, I got a main channel down below, but I'm going to probably promote that more at the end of the video. So let's get straight into this. The Boston Celtics is a team that every year seems to be a contender, someone that makes a deep playoff run. But this year seems like they took a surprising step back. As of right now, they're the 7th seed in the East, and if the playoffs ended today, they'd end up going against the Nets and end up being an easy first round exit. Before I start this rant/video, I took some things into consideration. Yes, I know and understand Marcus Smart and Kemba has been out due to injuries. They aren't the main source of the Celtics' problems, although the declining in Kemba due to injuries didn't help, and their only main playmaker in Smart being gone doesn't help either. I just feel like I had to acknowledge those before I get attacked in the comments and have to repeat this over and over and over. But the first problem I really want to address is the roster problems. Their lack of size. The Boston Celtics is a team in desperate need for size, especially at that power forward position. Their center position isn't too high either when it comes to talent. Not to say that Tice wasn't enough, but after trading him for Mo Wagner, he also isn't enough of a threat as a starting center, and neither would Luke Kornet be, although he's 7'2". He won't see much playing time here similar to as he did in Chicago. The other centers on this roster is fairly underwhelming with undersized Robert Williams, who stands at 6'8" and can't really spread the floor, and Taco Fall is a two-way player who's appeared in 12 games this season. Although their power forward position depth seems good, they're still severely undersized, with their backup power forward being 6'6" Grant Williams. Yes, Tristan Thompson is on this roster, but he spends more time playing center than power forward for this team. The other power forward is Semi O, who although spreads the floor, isn't that much of a threat, with him only averaging 3 rebounds a game and also standing at 6'6". And with Andre Drummond going to LA, they're in talks to get DeMarcus Cousins, whose last team dropped him due to inefficient and inconsistent play off the bench. That is pretty much what's wrong with their roster, at least big man wise. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't go for Vucevic, seeing what Vucevic went for. I think the Bulls just traded Wendell Carter, and I think they traded 1 or 2 picks, but that's pretty much it. Don't tell me that you couldn't have did that with all them draft picks that you had. I feel like it's best if they would have got Vucevic. They didn't get Andre Drummond. It doesn't look like Hassan Whiteside's going to get bought out. And LaMarcus Aldridge, although he isn't a center, he doesn't bring the defense. At least he brings some type of size to this roster. I'm not sure what other centers are out there to get picked up, but I think Boston has to find something. They got to do something. Maybe promote Taco more, although Taco isn't that good of a player consistently. Turnover machine. He averages like 3 turnovers a game in the 12 games they appeared. They got to find something to do. But next, I'm going to go to their play style. The Celtics is a team with a play style that has led them to mediocrity. A big part of this has to do with the ISO ball play and their pick and roll play, where the ball handler keeps possession of the ball rather than dishing it out to the roll man or someone else. This team is 24th in the league in assists and 16th in the league in passes made, and it's obvious that this team is in real lack of playmakers. While the best one on the roster is Marcus Smart, who's a little bit above average, when it comes to making plays, there's not another one on the roster. Kemba Walker averages less than 5 assists a game, and it's obviously due to the decline in injuries and just father time in general. This team is 6th in isolation, which didn't surprise me after reading the stats above. While they're 6th in isolation plays, they're 22nd in isolation field goal percentage, which is the reason why they're playing so inconsistent in the average this season. I decided to see this team's usage rate since they're playing a lot of ISO and pick and roll with the ball handler keeping the ball more times than not, and it didn't surprise me that Tatum and Brown both had a usage rate of 30%, and Kemba's was 3rd at 27%. All great scorers, but not great enough to do it on a nightly basis that will result in wins. This team is also 15th in turnovers as well, to add to the mid-season that they're having. For the most part, they're in the middle of the league in most stats. So we basically have ball play going on where we have Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kemba Walker going ISO. Pick and rolls where they're keeping the ball, which could make sense for maybe a Jayson Tatum because you see the mismatch there, and maybe even Jaylen Brown because he's great at attacking the rack, but I don't see that working for Kemba Walker. He's averaging less than 5 assists. His points per game is at an all-time low, and most people can argue that's because he's coming off of a knee injury that he came back from, I think, the beginning of February, late January, but he's obviously on a decline. They tried to trade him. Nobody wants Kemba Walker. He's on a max contract. He can't play defense due to his size, and he's not a playmaker. He's a scorer, and he's not scoring as good as he normally would when they first signed him. I don't really have a problem with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown usage rate, but I'd like to see more more assists get dished out from Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Not to say that they don't do it enough already. Just a little bit more ball movement would probably help this team a lot. Nobody else on this team had a usage rate that was even close to theirs. I think the next closest, or number 4, was Marcus Smart. His was at like 18.5, and with him being the best playmaker on the team, I like to see his go maybe 23, maybe to 22, 23. I'm not sure how his roles go because I don't watch the Celtics on a daily basis like I do some teams like the Hawks, the Bucks, Lakers, Nets, teams like that. But I do watch them enough to notice stuff like this. Just little changes that may help this play style. No, I'm not a coach. No, I'm not some type of NBA executive. All I am is a above average fan. Above average. I'm not no casual. I'm like the head of the stats. But we get off track. The next thing I like to address is their clutch time. Now, the Celtics is a fairly young team. Fairly young. I'd say they're like top 10 in youngest teams in the league. But this team has not been too disciplined or too great in the clutch like you see in most young teams. This team has struggled to put away games. The NBA defines clutch as a 5-point game with at least 5 minutes left. The Celtics are 27th in the league when it's a 5-point game with 5 minutes left with a record of 11-19. When put in this predicament, their 3-point percentage falls to 29th in the league in the clutch, with it only being 23%, and their free throw shooting lands them at 29th in the league in the clutches. That's only 69%. Kemba Walker is shooting 17% from the field in these situations, and Marcus Smart is shooting 27%, all while Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown is only shooting barely over 30% in the clutch. As I've said before, this young team is struggling in the clutch pretty bad, and when I said Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown is barely shooting over 30%, that's from the 3-point line, just to make that clear. I think those two are the best clutch players on this team, but everybody else is fairly mediocre. So if one or the other isn't having a great game, they get double teamed. They don't really have no one to turn to, which results in them losing close games. I think they won their last 2 and they play the Pelicans tonight. So I'll just see how that goes. It may stop me from posting this, but I plan on posting this before that game. This is a team defensively. This team was top 8 in blocks and steals a game. But oddly enough, which could be due to lack of size, as I said previously, this team is 24th in allowed second chance points and 23rd in defensive rebounds. Their opponents are shooting about 46% from the field, which puts them at 16th in the league, and like majority of their defensive stats outside of blocks and steals are just pretty decent or pretty average. So I decided not to go in depth into this, as they ranked in between 10 and 15 for majority of their defensive stats. And besides defensive stats, they really ranked in between 10 and 20 for majority of the stats in the league. If I had to make that range a little bit closer, I'd probably go, they rank in between 12 and 17 for most stats in them. So they're a pretty average team. Next, we're going to look at the trade deadline and the moves that they just made. At the trade deadline, we all wanted/expected Boston to make moves. They ended up trading for Evan Fournier from the Magic for 2 second-round picks. Now, although he can add depth to this team with instant scoring off the bench, he isn't really what this team needed with lack of size and really needing wing defenders. They also traded for Mo Wagner and Luke Cornett at the trade deadline, who I don't believe neither will have much of an impact on this team due to them not getting much playing time on teams that was losing as is. I mean, Cornett 7-2, and his first game he had 8 points, 5 rebounds, and he made a 3. So he could be kind of promising, as both players are kind of young, but I don't see them making that much of an impact that would be noticeable or stop them from maybe losing in the first round or maybe getting swept or gentlemen swept in the second, depending who they play against, because the seeding is still kind of close in the East. But that's about it for this video, y'all. I want y'all to tell me how y'all feel about the Boston Celtics down below in the comments. Don't forget to go follow me on Instagram at EGF Hoops. On Instagram, Twitter, EGF Ron. Go down below if you like how I sound or how I'm talking. Don't forget to go check out my main channel, EGF Ron. Every single girl on this Planet Fantasy. You can go check that out. We're aiming for 500 subs. And that's about it, EGF Squad. I love y'all more than I love myself. Hit that sub button. We're trying to hit 50 subs. And we're out. Peace.